Welcome to the second video in my series that's going through all 110 cards that are in the Tomb of the Lich Lord Dungeoneer set. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be going over adventure cards, the brown-backed cards, but these are going to be the ones that are purchased with Peril points, the red ones. Now there are two types of cards. There are encounters, which are the red cards, and then there are banes. I don't know if you can see that in the background there. And the bane is marked with the crossbones. Okay, so there are two types of encounter cards. I've separated these out. The first type are, and they're all played in the Dungeon Lord phase, phase 2. The first ones are instants, and when you play it, it gets discarded, and these are traps. The second kind are monsters, and each monster has a type. So we'll go over all the traps first, and then we'll take a look at all the monsters. Now there are only 3 traps in the game, in this set. The first one is Acid Bath. Now, each of them reminds you traps affect all heroes in the same space. So if you've got a guy in your same space, you do not want to throw a trap out because you're going to be affected just the same. So each trap has a test here, a threat that you have to attempt. And what you do is roll a d6 and add your speed score. And in this case, you're going to want to get an 8 or better to succeed. Now, if you succeed, you actually gain 1 glory point. But if you fail, then it's going to inflict 1 wound and 1 peril point. Now, this is the toughest of the 3 traps. You have to get an 8. And look at that artwork. I would say he definitely failed. And it says, be sure to wash behind your ears. All right. Anyway, I can look at that later. Or pause the video. The next trap is Poison Cloud. And this one, you have to get a 6 or better. Now this is the easiest one of the 3. If you succeed, you gain a glory point. But if you fail, the hero takes 1 wound, and the controlling player, which is the player who played the card, gets to give 1 peril point to any player. It doesn't necessarily have to go to the hero that the trap was played on. Now, of course, that only goes for games with 3 or 4 players, because if it's just 2 of you playing, then it has to go to your opponent. All right, so let's take a look at this Poison Cloud. Oh, you can really see a hand looking for some help, and then the boots. What's that musty smell in here? All right, and finally, Poison Needles. This is the final trap. Now this falls in between the other 2. This is a 7 you have to get. If you succeed, then you gain a peril point. A glory point. But if you fail, it's the same as the other one. You get 1 wound, and the controlling player gets to give 1 peril point to any player. This says, you suddenly feel a stinging sensation. And I bet you do. I don't know, if I saw that on the wall, I would definitely try to avoid it. All right, so those are the 3 traps. Now let's go to the monsters. I've got the monsters separated by type. In fact, you'll see here this is a demon type, and there are only 2 demons in this set. Now you do have to watch the type because there are map cards or quests or treasure cards. There are all kinds of cards that affect only certain types of monsters. So you really have to pay attention to that. It's easy to overlook that, those modifiers. Okay, so when this comes out, he's going to do a magic attack. He's going to use magic, and that's because his magic stat is 2. He gets a bonus of 2. And he's only going to inflict 1 wound, and he only has 1 hit point. So he'll be easy to kill if you can just hit him. But he has this ability, Infernal Flames. When Demonic Adder attacks all heroes in the same space, all heroes in the same space must overcome melee threat 4 or take 1 wound. So again, you're going to have to watch playing this on an opponent if you're in the same spot. It's because all this magic, he's got all these flames coming off of him. Now if you notice, you'll see the other demon, it also deals with fire. So I think that's a theme, something in common. And it says death. So yeah, I wonder what size that is. Is it huge? Or I guess it doesn't matter. It's going to hurt either way. Fire. All right. The other demon in this set is called Legion. Now he's going to do a melee attack. His melee bonus is 3. And he's going to inflict 1 wound. Again, he only has 1 hit point. But he has Abyssal Flames. When Legion attacks, all heroes in the same space must overcome magic threat of 4 or take 1 wound. And here is what Legion looks like. Let's see. The Abyss is so infested with Legion that they are being pushed into our world. And it looks like kind of a serpentine body with arms. And is that 1 horn? Man, a lot of flames. So I don't know. I would recommend staying away from demons. Okay, now the next type are fiends, and there are 2 fiends in this set. The first one being the famed Bugbear. Let's just go right to see what he looks like. Now it looks like a fly head on a humanoid body, and it says, "Beware the Bugbear." Yeah, a lot of cards have warned us about him. Okay, so he's going to do a melee attack. It's because 2 is his bonus on that. He's going to inflict 1 wound. He only has 1 hit point. And he has Dying Scream. If defeated, this card inflicts 1 melee wound on all heroes in the same space. So even if you do kill this thing, it's going to do a melee wound back at you. So this would be a great card to play Repel on, where you can play in response to his attack, and you'll get to discard him before you have a chance to defeat him. Okay. The other fiend is the Winker, and look at that. That is a Beholder. And it says, "The gaze of the Winker is unbearable." All right, you have your choice here. You can either go melee or magic. Now, if you fight melee, he's going to get a 2 for a bonus. And if he succeeds, he's actually going to do 2 wounds instead of 1. And if you decide to go magic, he's going to have a better chance of hitting. That's his best stat. But he'll only do 1 wound. And he has 2 hit points. So you're going to have to hit him a couple times unless you have something that can do 2 wounds. So anyway, that's the Winker. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eye stalks in addition to the main eye. All right. Okay. Again, I can look at that later. Now we have this one humanoid. This is the Cackling Hag. It's the witch. She's going to use magic. That's her best stat, and she gets a +3. And if she hits, she's going to inflict 1 wound, and opponent must discard a readied boon card of his choice. Okay, so there she is, and she's on the broomstick. She's got the hat, the wart. But this witch has her own look, and it looks like it fits right into this universe perfectly. Anyway, come here, my little cutie pie. I've got something for you. Okay. Now we move to the undead. I would say there are a lot of undead. I don't know if it's most, but a lot of monsters are undead. But then again, we are in a tomb. In fact, if you look at the end, It's a tomb, but it's undead on the end. So of course undead are going to be popular. Okay, and the first one is Crouching Skeleton. When it comes out, it's going to do a melee combat. It has a bonus of 3, and it's going to inflict 1 wound if it's successful. It only has 1 hit point, and it says, I need to put on a little weight, and you're looking tasty. And look, that's obviously a skeleton. And I love the way the technique used here, because it's a white skeleton on a flat black background. That would seem hard to do, but this looks great. He almost looks magical too. But he's got a sword. Okay, let's move on. We have the Crypt Ghost. This is going to fight magic. It's got a 3 as its magic bonus. And if successful, it's going to inflict 1 wound and opponent loses 1 glory point. Now it's one of the tougher ones. It has 2 hit points. And this says, I'll suck the marrow from your bones for disturbing my rest. And let's see. Ooh, yep. I would not want to wake that thing up. He wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, apparently. The Dark Templar. Here he is. He's going to fight magic. His bonus of 3. He'll inflict 1 wound, and he has 2 hit points, so he's a tougher one. And again, look, that came from 2. That came from the B deck. That's what all these 2s come from. Anyway, while it's out, or actually when he attacked, all other undead cost 1 less peril to play this turn when Dark Templar attacks. So you're going to want to save up, bring him out, and then you can bring out some cheaper undead cards. And this says, Thou shalt be smitten for thy transgressions. Now this is one of the coolest ones. Look at that. He's smiting with gold electricity, gold lightning out of his eyes. No, this though, that is awesome picture. All right, so Death's Shadow. This is going to attack using melee. 3 is its, it has a bonus of 3. And if successful, it's going to inflict a wound, and opponent must overcome a melee threat of 4 or lose an entire level. Now there's another card, it's Wraith. And the Wraith actually stole a level from one of my players, my heroes. I think it was it may have been in game 3 on my channel. But he only has 1 hit point. Let's see. Tasty Soul for me to drink. Now this, I'll tell you what this reminds me of. What was his name? Shadow Demon? Whatever, on the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. Venger's little sidekick guy. He had these withered wings like this, and he was just a shadow. So I'm going to say this is an homage to that. It may have nothing to do with it, but in my mind, it connects this awesome game to that awesome TV show from my awesome childhood. All right, let's move on. The Ghoul, he's going to fight melee. His bonus is 3. And if he's successful, it's going to inflict 1 wound, and the opponent must discard a readied boon card of his choice. Now this Ghoul, yeah, it looks awesome. In fact, that may have been what was fighting the guy with the wooden shield. Watch my last episode and look up the wooden shield treasure card, because it had something that looked like that, beating on the guy's wooden shield, splintering it. He's even got a skull in his hand. And boots? Oh, you know what? Look, there's 1 boot. I wonder if that's Al-Hazad's boot. Is this Al-Hazad? Okay. Feel my love for your tasty flesh. All right. I think I'm going to go write some fanfic. Excuse me. All right, here we go. We've got the Lich Lord, what the game is named after. This is the boss monster. It's obviously the only boss in this set. And let's take a look. He costs 6 to get out. Now you get to choose what type of combat. Man, look, all of his stats are decent. If he fights melee, he gets a 2 bonus, and he's going to inflict 2 wounds instead of 1. So that's similar to the Winker. But if you decide to go with 5 bonus on magic, I think that's the highest in this game. He's going to inflict 1 wound, and your opponent loses 2 glory points. And he has 3 hit points. He is the toughest monster in this set. It says, I've eaten the mighty Thorn Axe Reaver's soul. What makes you think you will fare any better? Axe Reaver, that makes me think of... Let me take a look at something here. Sorry for this. This is impromptu. Axe Reaver, Kron. I wonder, I've eaten the mighty Thorn. So I wonder if Thorn is Kron's dad, maybe? A relative? Okay, anyway. Again, making things up. Let's see. What else? Oh, let's just take a look at him. So yeah, that is what this big Lich Lord looks like. And look at that. Look at his hand. Does that look familiar? Wow. So many connections. And look at the screaming skull things coming out. Wow. Okay. Oh, and look at his... He even has a skull as a helmet. I wonder if... Is he an elf? He's got elf ears. Man, I think there's more to this Lich Lord than we know at this point. All right, keep going. Got a lot of cards to get through. This is a Poltergeist. The first one was really good. The second, not so good. And the third one, don't even watch. I'm talking about the movies. So it's a high cost, actually. And this is going to use melee for his combat. He gets a +3. And if successful, he's going to inflict 1 wound, and opponent must discard a ready treasure of his choice. Okay, and this says, what have you brought for me? And it's this, man, look at that, Poltergeist. Man, he looks awesome. I would not want to come across that thing in a tomb. Okay, and we have the Wraith. This is the one I spoke of earlier. He is going to use magic to fight. He gets a 3 for a bonus. And when successful, he inflicts a wound, and the opponent must overcome a magic threat of 4 or lose a level. So the hero that had to fight this thing, obviously the hero failed his test, and he lost a level. Your mind is mine. So, I don't know, is that the Wraith? Okay, so he's got a big mouth. Look at the green eyes. He's got some fangs. Man, that could really tear you up. Look at his long hands, claws. He doesn't have much on the bottom going on. Okay, then we have Zombie. This is the final undead in this set. It's a pretty simple creature. 1 cost, comes out, and he's going to do a melee combat. He's got a bonus of 2. He's going to do 1 wound. He only has 1 hit point. And it says, tasty brains for me. You're so sweet, especially your liver. That is awesome. That's hilarious. You can see his arm. Is that like a bone sticking out or tacked on? And that definitely looks like a screaming crazy. Looks like something that'd be at Mardi Gras down in New Orleans. No, that's really awesome for a zombie. All right. What I'd love to see are some alternate art cards for these things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future, the other sets, there are some of these same things with alternate art. I doubt it. I kind of hope for new cards, but I'll take anything. Either way would be awesome. Okay, the final monster type, we have Vermin. Now, I think it's the barracks, has something to do with Vermin. The barracks map card. Anyway, this first one, easy to come out. It's the Bed Fagin. Uses a melee combat. It's got a bonus of 2, and it inflicts 1 wound, and it only has 1 hit point. And what does the bed fagan look like? Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed fagans bite. So yeah, definitely vermin-like, like a big rat with a long nose. He's got the tail, rat tail going on. Yep, all right. And then finally, the last vermin and the last monster in this set is the Crypt Bat. It's going to use magic. It has a bonus of 2. It's going to inflict 1 wound. It has 1 hit point, again, and 1 cost. So another just little nuisance to bring out. And it says, the arcane screech of Crypt Bats resonates through the cursed tomb. Yeah, I've heard that before when I played. I don't know if the camera picked it up. But here is the Crypt Bat. That's awesome. Okay, so those are all of the monster cards. Now let's move over to, or the encounter cards. Now let's move over to the boons, or the banes. I'll get it right. There are 3 types of banes. I've separated them out. And we've got the anytime cards. They're all instants, so they get discarded as soon as you play them. Then you've got the 2 cards that you can play during the Dungeon Lord phase. One type is an instant that gets discarded, and one is a permanent that plays into your inventory on the table. Okay, so let's go over all 3 of these. Now there are only 3 of these anytime cards, banes, in this set. The first one's called Fumbler, and when you play this, now this can be on your turn or your opponent's turn, all encounter trap cards have a +1 threat for the duration of this turn. So that's going to make traps a bit harder to succeed at. So it even shows here the threat is a +1. And flavor text, watch out for loose stones. Definitely, there's the loose stone. He's about to step on it, and that's going to trigger that trap. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Those look similar to the poison dart trap, or the poison needle trap earlier, or whatever it was. Okay, so that is the first. There are 2 other anytime instants. The Greater Arcane Energy. All monsters get +2 magic for the duration of this turn. So these are the kind of things you throw out, and then you throw a good magic monster, and that just boosts them up big time. And this one says, the convergence of evil energy empowers the weak and strong alike. Got this big demon-like thing with wings coming out. Wow. Okay. And the last one is Greater Bloodlust. Similar, all monsters have +2 melee for the duration of this turn. And this one says, the hunger of the evil ones has been awakened by the smell of your blood. This is awesome lizard guy, alligator. I don't know what he's eating. It looks like he has some kind of green meat, watermelon meat. Man, Lizard King, a Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Old D&D module. They had lizard men in it, that whole series. Okay. Next we move on to the second type. We've got played during the Dungeon Lord phase. These are instants. So these get discarded when you play them. So this first one's called Budge, and you get to relocate target hero 1 or 2 spaces from his current location, horizontally and or vertically, but not diagonally. Again, you get to ignore doors and walls. That's what's awesome about these warp cards. Let's see what this is. I think you should leave. So you see this guy moving, looks like against his will. Now, let's talk about the target here. When I played this once, I took that to mean target hero, so it's like, okay, well, I target myself. So I actually played it on myself, and I moved, and I may have won the game. It was great. But later on, I read that target hero is the one who paid the peril cost for this card. And since you can't pay peril yourself, you can never relocate yourself. That's how I read this now, and that's how I read online. That's what they discussed. So that's how I'm going to play it unless I hear otherwise. So yeah, if you've got 3 or 4 players, you get to pick which one you want to move, other than yourself. But the one you move has to be the one to pay that peril cost. All right, let's move on. Let's budge myself on. Then we have Dimensional Shift. Now there are only 2 cards in this set that came with doubles, and this is one of them. So the Dimensional Shift, it's a shift card. Relocate target unoccupied dungeon map card to any legal location, and you may also rotate it. So unoccupied obviously has to be a map card that does not have a hero on it. And this is the only way you can rotate. There's one other card we're going to come up to here shortly. These are the only 2 cards that let you rotate. So when you bring out a map card, it has to be horizontal when you connect it to your map. But this actually lets you turn it vertical. And you can see that this is definitely an unoccupied room. And with the swirls, that kind of indicates you can turn it. Man, to take an idea like this and turn it into a visual piece of art that keeps that idea, that's brilliant. Anyway, Oriella, goddess of the ethereal void, does not approve of those who tamper with time and space. And we've mentioned Oriella before. I believe it was last video. So anyway, there are 2 of those. And I'll go ahead and move on to Forgotten. Now this is a curse. There are 2 curses in the game. The opponent pays the cost of target boon card again, or it's discarded. So he says, where am I? Who am I? That's awesome. He's forgotten, hasn't he? Okay. The other curse is Misplace. Opponent pays the cost of target treasure card again, or it's discarded. He says, hey, where'd my weapon go? So he's reaching for it. The sword's gone. So as an example, I had a hero play, I think it was the Iron Breastplate in a recent game. It may have been game 3 on my channel, in fact. They paid the glory cost to get out the armor, and then his opponent's next turn, they played this card, and they said, okay, you're going to have to pay that glory again for that armor, and he couldn't. He didn't have any glory points left, so he had to discard the armor. So I'm guessing he doesn't have enough glory because he doesn't have his weapon. This is the other one that has 2 cards. It has a double plane shifted, and it's real similar to the other one, the Dimensional Shift, except this is an occupied dungeon map card to any legal location. You may rotate it. The other one was unoccupied. So this is one that actually has a hero on it, which is illustrated here with a hero. The Eldritch Lords threatened to end the world with plane shifts on a cataclysmic scale, and they failed. So yeah, you can even see, since it says you can rotate it, this kind of gives a sense of off balance. You don't know if it's the wall or the floor. Again, great interpretation here. In Eldritch Lords, who are they? It's the first time we've heard them mentioned. And why were they causing trouble? We may never know. And finally, this is the last instant. The Unholy Anger. All monsters have +1 and all undead have +2 to all melee and magic attacks for the duration of this turn. And it says, the unliving are angered by the presence of the living. Now, with this card, does anyone recognize anything? Yep, it's what was used on the left half of the box art. Now, in my first video, I showed the card Holier Lantern, and that's what this side is. So you put those 2 cards together, and it's one piece of art. And it really makes me wonder, I wonder if this is the only instance of that, or if there are other cards that go together. This might be the only one because it is the artwork for the box. And I'll have to look at the other expansions, the other sets, and see if they did something similar with that. Okay, the final Bane card in this set, and it's an enhancer. It's called Undead Awakening. Now this one is a permanent, so this actually comes out on the table and stays in your inventory. All undead you control cost 1 less peril to play, with a minimum cost of 1. And all undead you control get +1 melee and +1 magic. The sound of crackling bones and the rotting smell of the Lich Lord's allies permeates the ancient tomb. You know, I smelled that one time when we went through the tomb threshold. We entered the tomb. But look at the, yeah, you can see the face. All right. Very disconcerting. Look at the jaw there. All right, anyway, this is the last of the Peril cost cards. Thanks for watching. My next video, I'm going to go through all the quest cards and the hero cards. So if you want to see what came in the set, come back for that. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.